If you've ever traveled and wanted to speak the language of the locals, then you need this. What's happening, Panda Nation? Peter Von Panda here. I used to watch Star Trek, and one of the things they had was the universal translator, so they could just talk to people of other species, and it would just translate for them. In fact, it would make the lips sync up to the words that they were saying, which is pretty amazing too. I've always wanted to go to places and be able to ask questions, navigate around, negotiate, buy stuff without relying on someone else. And so I'm really excited about checking this out, to be able to translate written words, but also spoken words. So let's unbox it. Pretty nicely packaged. Kind of looks like a thermometer. It's actually really thin. It's much thinner than I would have thought. Man, it's got a really sleek look. Little glossy top screen right there. Power button right there. This is your little reader. So you got your little optical reader right there. We have a USB-C port right there for charging up. Speaker on the back, little QR code. Then we also have some buttons on the side here. This looks like a power button, and then it looks like we have little headsets, so red and blue there. So maybe speak, maybe listen, those types of things. But if we just keep going in the box, looks like we get some accessories as well. We get an instruction manual, which I will spend a little time with, and we also get a USB-A to USB-C port for charging it up. So I'm going to go ahead and get this charged up. I'm going to read through these translator instructions, and then we are going to try it out. Alright, so incredibly, this thing says it's fully charged now, so I'm going to go ahead and hit this power button here. This front is a touchscreen, so it's kind of like a smartphone itself here. It says welcome. And what I am really excited about is trying this on some different linguas. Hello. All right. AI translator right there. Now, I get stuff from all over the world, like this. You know, this box has stuff on there. It's translated, but there are characters that I do not know what they are. All right, so here we get to the main screen, and this little button right here is really your back button. Obviously, the first thing I need to do here is set the language to myself, so I'm going to scroll till I find settings, all right? And I'm going to go down here to the little globe, and that now I think should be English. Now this is going to help me out a lot here. I'm going to go ahead and also connect it to Wi-Fi. So I have this little dollhouse right here, and it is in Chinese. And one of the things that actually is kind of nice about this is that they have both the Chinese and the English. You know, so I'm hoping that these are pretty similar. But one of the things that you can do with this is this little scanner here. The text scan translation, I think, is probably the most interesting part of this. What I can do here is I can swipe in from the left side. I can go to offline identifying language, which will be Chinese, and then I'm going to translate that to English. And now what it'll do here is if I scan this, put it 45 degrees to the word, and then push it down here, and then slide it along the words. Now it will scan that, and it will show me what it read, as well as what it translates it to, and Box Theater seems pretty good, and those characters look like the characters that it scanned, which is pretty amazing. So if I go right down here to Forest Rhapsody, I'm going to try to see if I can get in on that, even though the text is pretty small. Forest Rhapsody. Look at that. So that is pretty cool. In fact, down here it gives me a little warning, so I'm going to scan that too. See what it says. Oh, it just says warn. And if I do this whole first line here, I want to see if I can do that all the way across. Yeah, that wasn't an incredibly great scan. Oh, contains small parts. There's a risk of breathing. So there is a risk of breathing. Work. So what I think it's saying is that this thing contains small parts, and if you put them in your mouth, you could choke on them, so don't do that. So I will tell you what, this stuff is pretty accurate. Now I wonder if I go here, back here, identifying language, and select some of the other ones, it looks like we only have Chinese, English, and Japanese in there. I definitely think this was made for the Chinese market. So if I ever go to China, this is definitely the translator I'm going to take with me, so I can read the instructions that are in front of me, which is pretty awesome. So let's look at some of the other features here. All right, probably the most interesting thing about this, and the thing that I like the most, is this phonetic translation. So it will listen to you and then translate. Now in both languages, and this is where the volume up and down buttons here also act as the input. So the blue is going to be kind of your native language, and the red is going to be your other language. So if I go here to phonetic translation, I have been playing around with this a little bit, and if I hold this down and say, do you know where the restaurant is? which is awesome. Now the person can respond, and then they can respond by holding down this red button and recording it. Now my Spanish isn't that great, so I'm just going to use some phrases that I do know. No sé. Tengo un gato en mis pantalones.
No, I don't know. I have a cat in my pants.
And that is actually what I did say. It's also from that Martin Lawrence movie. ¿Cuántos gatos en la calle?
How many cats on the street?
I saw at least 10 cats in the street.
Vi al menos 10 gatos en la calle.
So what I love here is that it's also showing it in English, so I know if it picked up the right words and is translating at least what I put into it, so that's pretty cool. Now for me, I interact with a lot of Spanish speakers, so it's nice to have this. While I have a little bit of a Spanish vocabulary to just kind of get by, it's really cool to have this. I'm actually pretty impressed with how well this works here, so I feel a lot better having this when I am on the road, maybe talking to people. And then if you do want to change languages here, I can swipe in from this side, and that's going to pull up these keyboards. And so I'm going to go to English to, let's say, Italian. I want to go to Italy. And I would say here, is there an airport in Rome?
C'è un aeroporto a Roma?
Sì, es un aeroporto.
Yes, it is an airport.
All right. I don't speak any Italian, but I was just trying to read a version of the words that it was showing me on the screen back to it. So that's pretty cool. How far is Tuscany from the airport?
Quanto dista la Toscana dall'aeroporto?
La Toscana non è vicino all'aeroporto.
Tuscany not close to the airport.
I only know a few phrases in Korean, but I thought I would try some of these. Would you like some dinner?
저녁 좀 드실래요?
사랑해.
I love you.
안녕하세요.
Hello.
All right, so I have been using this translator a little while here and invited actually some friends over that speak Korean, and we were having a little fun with it. Fortunately, they speak English, so we didn't have to rely on it. But there's a couple things that I really like and a couple things that probably could be improved in future versions too. First of all, one thing that you can't do here is record any more than 59 seconds at a time. So if someone is really going on a long rant, getting on their soapbox, giving you directions to some faraway place, that's not going to work that much. 59 seconds is what you're limited to. So please don't go on long rants.
그러니 장황한 말을 하지 마세요.
감사합니다.
Thank you.
The other thing I will say is that it seems to continue to need a Wi-Fi connection, especially on this phonetic translation. I don't think it necessarily stores all of the elements it needs to translate the language, so it needs an internet connection. If you are outside of a Wi-Fi connection, you can pair this to your phone via Bluetooth, and it seems to use the data connection on my phone to continue to run. Now, I will say if you are in some areas of a country where you don't have your cell phone, maybe you don't have it activated to the network, where you don't have a good cellular connection, maybe this won't work. But in most cases, and especially in some of those international countries that I have visited, the Wi-Fi is way more prolific than it is around here. So that's pretty awesome. But between being able to translate on the fly, just speaking into this, and being able to scan text, say on a book, on a box, on a train ticket, on a map, and then have that translated in front of you, could be a lifesaver, could help you get around. You can't always just count on having some local there to ask a question. If you have to read a map or a guide or something like that, this could be super helpful and far more helpful than the ones that just translate the spoken word. So I really love this thing, and it's going with me on my next international trip. But if you want to have a conversation, maybe wow some people that speak some other languages, this little tiny device, which can slip in your pocket, might be your best friend, might make your next trip far more enjoyable. So if you want to pick this up, I'll put a link to it in the description below. Peter Von Panda, out.
피터 본 팬더 아웃.
We can discover more and explore so much deeper.